Alright, we're going to have kind of a different video today. So just a little bit different. Now I got another whiteboard here. I got two whiteboards. I got one that I keep all of the timeline stuff on over there. I got this one right here that I use for other stuff. So we've been talking about a couple of different topics here lately, and one of the topics that Christians are very much talking about these days is the UFO stuff, right? The UFO stuff, and some people say, "Oh, it's demonic," and other people say, "Oh, it's not demonic. Are you kidding? Those are actual flying saucers up there. Those are not demonic." Okay, well, I decided I would go ahead and explain it a little bit here. This is how I feel about it. I feel that the UFO phenomenon is a demonic phenomenon. And I wanted to go into a little bit of depth on it for people that may not quite understand how that could be. Well, demons are fallen angels. Demons are scary creatures from the devil and blah blah blah. Okay. Yes, true. But the thing is that we gotta understand. We gotta understand some stuff. Now, when I use the word demonic, you get too many people out there that are, they want to pinpoint things. Oh, demonic is not a fallen angel. A demon is not a fallen angel. Look, you got to understand there's a hierarchy out there. Not only amongst angels, the angelic realm from the supernatural realm, talking about, seraphim and cherubim and archangels and regular angels and whatnot. But in the demonic realm, the fallen angels, there's also hierarchy, because when they fell, they keep their ranks amongst each other. They keep their ranks amongst each other. The fallen angels are subdivided by devils and demons. They're subdivided by devils and demons. Devils being the top, the top ones in charge. And then there are the demonic spirits, which are also fallen angels, but they are subjugated to the devils. It's a hierarchy. Where does this come from? Well, it comes from a lot of study. That's right, a lot of study. Now, when we talk about angels and demons, and then we start talking about aliens, right? I mean, what we have to remember is that angels and demons are spirits. They're spirits. Alright? They're spirits. And this is why people say, well, how can aliens be demonic? How can they be demons or devils or fallen angels or whatever? How can they be? Because they are disembodied spirits. Well, they've had a long time to figure a lot of things out. They can look like anything. They can look, a fallen angel can make themselves look like a jackass or a donkey or a horse or what have you. Alright? They can do that. They could also make themselves look like creatures that are just made up. Okay? It's something you got to remember. This is how it is. They can even make themselves look like an angel of light, as we could refer back to the Holy Bible that says that. Okay? And this is why you're taught to test the spirits. Test them. Who's God come in the flesh? Jesus Christ. If they will not admit that, then you know what you're dealing with. Now, how does that affect us in this world? It affects us with this quote-unquote alien phenomenon, because you've got bodies. Roswell, there was bodies. There's bodies from other crashes. Okay, there are bodies that human people interact with. Meat suits, for lack of a better word. I told you guys about the 2 books that you ought to read. Those 2, that's where I did the math. 2 plus 2 is 4, but this was 2 plus 2 was demonic, right? So the goal of the deception is to make people think in a way, to believe the lie of aliens. We're from another star system. We're benevolent. We're here to help. The whole thing is a lie and a deception. And since most people, it seems nowadays, hardly even believe in God. They'd rather believe in demons, or aliens, right? The alien thing is a big deal for Satan and the other side. It's a big deal. What we have to understand, why do aliens look the way they do? I'm going to answer that question for you. Because we know Satan wants to be worshipped like the Almighty. He wants to be worshipped like the Almighty. He wants to make himself as God. He thought of himself as God, that he could be as God. That's why there are all these fallen angels. Because they were cast out of heaven. They were cast out of heaven to the earth. Now they want to drag us down with them. It's all in the Bible. Just go read it. So how do they do that? They need to bridge the gap between them and humankind. They need to bridge that gap between them and humankind. And how do they do that? They need bodies. But they cannot speak bodies into existence like God can. They can't. They can't do that. They cannot create life. Fallen angels cannot create life. They were created themselves by God. They weren't always fallen. But they need bodies to act as a go-between and give some kind of credibility to them, okay? So, and also, what you have to understand is that if the fallen angels just showed up as fallen angels, then they would not be able to deceive us. They wouldn't be able to deceive most people. Everybody be like, you know what? That would just give 100% credence to God. That's right. That would just give 100% credence to God, because everybody'd be like, you're fallen angels. Why should we trust you? So, what are they? How do they do this? Well, over the years, so many people have heard about cattle mutilations, and they have heard about abductions. They have seen, you know, bodies that are supposedly aliens from different planets, blah blah blah. But what is this? Fallen angels cannot create life. Now, if we go back to Whitley Strieber's book Communion, okay, there's two books, Flying Saucers and the Three Men by Albert K. Bender, and Whitley Strieber's Communion. Okay, if you read both of those books, you will absolutely make the connection that aliens are demonic in nature. We got to go back to the book Communion. Whitley Strieber was taken on a quote-unquote alien ship. He was talked to. He was shown empty bodies. That's very key. That's very key. Empty bodies. Bodies that were ready to be used by the aliens when they wore a body out. Okay? That's right. Go read the book. That's what the quote-unquote alien told Strieber. Now, keep in mind, you know, fallen angels, Satan cannot speak anything into existence. So what has he done? He's manipulated DNA. He could take something physical and manipulate it. Manipulating DNA. Cattle mutilations. Select pieces of cattle have been taken, surgically removed with surgical precision like a laser. Right? Cattle mutilations. Insects. So we often hear about mantis aliens, aliens that look kind of like ants in the face, and bees and stuff. This is genetic manipulation. This are taking certain genes from certain insects, cows, humans. We have human abductions, right? We have human abductions. Probably 90% of those or more are not Christians, okay? And then we have this, you know, genealogy.com stuff nowadays. Oh, just send us a sample of your DNA and we'll tell you that, you know, we'll blow smoke up your butt and tell you that you are, you know, blah, blah, blah. Now they got your DNA. Right. Guard your DNA. Don't be giving it away. Especially when you know it reverts right back to probably the demonic realm. They just want your DNA. They want your DNA. And then the whole jab thing in the COVID time a few years ago, not that long ago, guys, you know, they were injecting mRNA with the whatever other crap was in those injections. You know, there is what's called a God gene in DNA. You don't want to mess that up. I think that there is some connection there with that in the rapture. Now, that's just my supposition. That there could be a connection between the rapture and your DNA. There could be a connection there. Now, when we talk about DNA and these fallen angels, these demonic creatures, okay, what are we talking about here? We're talking about them growing bodies, growing stuff, creating stuff from a fake uterus, putting certain things together to grow bodies. Now, since we know that fallen angels are beyond intelligent, they are like super intelligent, they are mad scientists intelligent. We know that. Probably have a 3,000 IQ or something. We don't have any clue. But we know that even though they cannot speak life into existence like the Almighty can, they have enough intelligence to put 2 plus 2 together to make 4. At least probably most of them do. But when we look at all this DNA stuff down here, this is why they collect these samples. This is why they collect all this DNA from people, and I'm saying insects as well, because you have people that talk about, aliens that have a very, very insect-like looking face. Mantis, the look of a mantis or an ant, a bee, etc. And what do they have? With these great big eyes. And they're solid black. You ever see solid black eyes on a human? The only time that you ever see solid black eyes on a human where the iris goes away is on someone who has been completely demonically possessed. So these are solid black eyes on these creatures. And then a lot of them have this face, this shape. It's not a round head like ours. It's almond shaped. It's very much like an insect, isn't it? Now, why am I talking about all this stuff? Because, this is coming very soon to a theater near you. And I'm not talking about a movie theater. I'm talking about a theater near you, talking about outside, where there's probably going to be, ships. And you'll see ships, and you'll see these creatures, and and whatnot. I mean, the thing is that does this look like something that the Lord made? God said He made us in His image. This is not my image, and it's not your image, right? So whose image is that? There's no image for that. It's made up. It's made up of pieces parts. It's made up of pieces parts. That's how they created little bodies to deceive people. They can't deceive anybody in their spirit form. But if they create bodies to inhabit possession, right? That's what happens to people sometimes in the world who get possessed by evil spirits, humans. So here's a body of a person, right? Here's the body of a person taking a nap. This thing doesn't want to write well. Here's a person taking a nap, laying down. There's the body of a person. Okay, now this person already has, okay, this is already occupied, right? This body's already occupied. Now, when somebody becomes possessed, this demonic disembodied spirit, I'm just going to say DS. You could say disembodied spirit, or you could say demonic spirit, either you want. Cohabits this body with this person, and not all of the time, but some of the time, the disembodied spirit controls it like a marionette. That's how that happens. The person is forced to take a back seat, basically, at the controls of the body. They're still in the body, but the disembodied spirit, the demonic spirit, cohabits that body. That's what happens in possession. Okay, but someone who is a Holy Spirit-filled Christian cannot be demonically possessed, because the Holy Spirit is already there. Already there. Holy Spirit in, can't be possessed. And you have to allow that disembodied spirit to possess you. It has to be allowed. You have to tell it that it can. Okay? In this case right here, with these quote-unquote alien bodies, they're just empty shells. They could be possessed at any time. You know, these demonic spirits, they're creating these bodies, okay? Somehow they're creating these bodies, and then when they need one, they take it over. They take it over, just like possession. That's how that works. Now, when, you know, everybody continues to say like things like, well, why can't there be other creatures out there in the vast universe, blah blah blah. You know, there are pictographs with quote-unquote alien-type creatures. They have been visiting the Earth for a long time. My opinion is that they have been basically forced to wait for technology that we invent. You understand? Because they don't know how to make this in the beginning. In the beginning, I don't think they knew how to make that as good as they do now. I think that they wanted to use some of our technology. It's quite possible. I could be totally wrong on that. Or it could be that we got the technology from them. Because they operate amongst us. They're in and amongst us. Okay? But the fact of the matter is that demons are among us in the world. They are definitely among us in the world. And you'll say, well, how can that be if they look like this, right? There's something that's called perfect possession. Perfect possession. Perfectly possessed people are normal people that look like us who are in 100% agreement with the demonic spirit possessing them, cohabiting their body. That's right, that's called perfect possession. And that's been around for a long time. You have people like that. Now, what's to say that these quote-unquote elites in the world are not just perfectly possessed humans? You see? That's how they get to where they are, is because they have that inside information from the demonic realm on tap 100% of the time. You see? You understand what I'm talking about? Now, for some people will say that this is a real fun video, but this video is not about anything fun. This is trying to get you to think, outside of the box that you have lived in all of your lives, because a lot of people do not know a lot of these things. Now, I studied a lot of things over the years, and I'm trying to share with you some things that will try to help you understand. Why things are or could be the way that they are. So, do you think that the Almighty is going to make people that look like this? He says in the Bible that He made us in His image. You see? That's not His image. This is a really bad attempt. Anyway, some of what I'm telling you is in my opinion is directly tied to, over the years, cattle mutilations, human abductions and so on. This right here deals with possession, obsession, and so on. When we talk on the spiritual realm, you see things like the old movie from '73, I think it was, The Exorcist. I mean, the thing about the movie The Exorcist, the woman nor the kid was particularly religious at all. That's the problem. They weren't Christians. They weren't filled with the Holy Spirit. And here's another thing. You notice that the kid got possessed, right? But in a family, you have, let's draw some shaggy hair here. Alright, we'll give her a 70s hairstyle. Alright, there's a woman, and here's a man. Alright, so there's a woman and a man, and they have a kid. Alright, so there's the kid. Now what we got to remember is that the kid is under the under the umbrella under the umbrella of the mother and the father. Okay? That's the kid's protection. Now, if the mother and the father are Christians, they're under Christian protection. Right? So if the mother and the father are Holy Spirit filled Christians, then the child, being an innocent, is under the protection of the mother and the fathers. Do you follow what I'm saying here? If these two here are Holy Spirit filled Christians, it's mother and father, or Holy Spirit filled Christian, then the child is under the umbrella, the protection of the mother and the father. You see? It's like that old saying, Jesus is the head of the man, and the man is the head of the woman, and the parents of a child are the head of the child. You see? That's how that works spiritually. So, when this umbrella no longer exists, let's say that this mother and father are a couple of atheists. Hope they aren't, but let's say that they are a couple of atheists, kind of like what's-her-face in the movie The Exorcist, the mother, okay? The woman that played the mother. She's pretty much an atheist. I'm just going to say for just argument's sake. So, what happens? There's no more protection. So if this mother and father are not Holy Spirit filled, they're not protected, and therefore the kid is not protected. And that's why a kid can get possessed. You got to look back at the parents. That's how that works. You see? Because their spiritual status is what determines if the child is protected or not. You see? If the child is protected or not. There you go. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and cut this one off. I've got a 40-minute timer over there, but I think this pretty much says a lot of things for you to chew on and think about and write notes on and to do the math. To put 2 plus 2 is 4. That's what we're doing here. You know, this is the way that the demonic is working in the world. And this is the way that they're trying to deceive people. And I believe that this is like a really big deceptive plot to, you know, to pull the wool over the eyes of a lot of people in the world. Because there's so many people, so many, that don't believe in Jesus. They don't even believe in God whatsoever. They don't believe in anything. They believe in, you know, oh, I believe in the greater good. You know, like you could save yourself out of this world. You can't. You can't. You have to have Jesus. Jesus is the only way. That's right. The way, the truth, and the life. Nobody comes unto the Father but by Jesus, because Jesus is God, God incarnate, right? So God decided He was going to come amongst the people, and He created Jesus and inhabited Him with, you know. So you got Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and they are all one. As I told you before, the way we connect with the Lord is through the Holy Spirit. And what's our prayer closet? Our prayer closet is inside. Only we can hear. Nobody else can hear. Demons can't hear. When you are in your internal prayer closet, in your mind, and you can speak with God through the Holy Spirit. You say, Father, in Jesus' name, hear my prayer. Why is that he can hear your prayers? Because the Holy Spirit hears it. It's a quite complicated thing, I'm sure, but it is what it is. And you'll say something like, well, how can we have the Holy Spirit in us? Well, that says it in the Bible. And you ask the Father, please put the Holy Spirit in me, in Jesus' name. Because Jesus is our intermediary. Right? He's the only intercessor. Only. Jesus. He is the only intercessor that we have. There is no other. Right? So the Holy Spirit is our connection. We're bound to the Father and the Son by the Holy Spirit. People that are demonically possessed, they can talk directly to that demon in their body without you and I hearing it. Why? Because this biological life form, it's a direct tap in. So we got the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit filled Christians have the direct contact, the direct connection with God. That's right, the Holy Spirit. That's right, 100% Holy Spirit. Anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead and let this video go. I'm going to let you guys chew on all that. And if you have questions, all you have to do is send an email. I will read it and I will try to understand whatever it is that you're asking and try to put it back to you in an easy to understand way to, and easy to understand communications there. Sometimes it's hard to convey things. That's what happens when you get older, guys. Stiff. So on. Yep. Alright. So yeah. Don't let that's quote-unquote alien stuff bother you. Okay? Don't let that alien stuff bother you. Because when you got Jesus, when you got the Holy Spirit, you got Jesus in your life, Jesus is in control. You put the Lord in control. You don't have to worry about all this nonsense. But it's good to have a little inside information. It's good to have a little inside information. Guys, I'll come back at you another one. I'll see you later.